There's been a great deal happening in the world of religion lately, and here with a look at it is our acting religion correspondent, Mr. Stephen Colbert, with This Week in God.
Thank you, John. It's been quite a week for monotheism, again. In fact, all three of the one true faiths scored huge. First up, Islam. In the light of eternity, the new kid on the block, the scrappy upstart still looking for respect. Well, this month marks the celebration of Ramadan. Ramadan is the Christmas of Islam, mixed with a little bit of Lent and just a dash of Yom Kippur. We're not really sure. We have a guy checking on it. Anyway, the New York City Police Department is giving Islam its due by displaying a copy of the Quran, the Dianetics of Islam, at police headquarters. Some critics say this violates the separation of church and state, but those cranks are mostly just civil libertarians who worship our Constitution like it's some kind of Bible for America. New York City's Islamic police officers have welcomed the display, as have non-Islamic officers who look forward to the opportunity to arrest anyone staring at the Quran for more than 10 seconds. They're kind of on a hair trigger these days. Hit it. Jewish-nish. We take you to Israel, where some West Bank settlers have received permission from their rabbis to use bomb-sniffing pigs to fight terrorism, despite being considered unclean under kosher laws. How ironic. You can't eat them, and yet they turn out to be the go-to animal in a time of crisis. It's a controversial move, but if this tactic works, these pigs could end up being the Jackie Robinsons of Judaism. I'll just let that one sink in for a minute. Let it ride. Christianity, where, once again, by popular demand, the Virgin Mary has appeared on an object people think kind of looks like the Virgin Mary. In this case, a tree stump in a vacant lot frequented by heroin users in Passaic, New Jersey.
It's pretty amazing. I mean, miracles happen everywhere.
Yes, even in New Jersey. Some critics say this is not a true visitation, while others say it is a true visitation, just not a very good one. Especially compared to earlier miraculous visitations, Our Lady on an industrial park window, the Blessed Virgin depicted on tree sap, and of course, Mother Teresa on a cruller. She was delicious. Now, as always, I like to end This Week in God with a prayer for our host, Jon Stewart. Almighty, everlasting Lord.
I'm sorry, Stephen.
Hold on, John. I'm just about to do the prayer here. Slayer of our enemies,
Stephen,
give the strength that's for you, John. I'm just going to pray that through your work you can glorify his name. May your flaming sword and its wisdom... Don't you want to glorify the Lord, John?
Sure. I just don't have time. We have to go to commercial.
Oh, okay. My apologies to God. Evidently, we had to bump him. Hopefully, he'll join us next time on This Week in God. John.
Thank you, Stephen. We'll be right back.
Oh, hi. I didn't see you come in. Welcome to This Week in God. We'll do this later. You know, God can pack a lot of stuff into 7 days. Just think about what he did in 6. So let's fire up the old God machine. Hit it. We start with Catholicism, the Microsoft of Christianity, and two of its biggest stars, Pope John Paul II and Mel Gibson, the one and only. Controversy continues to swirl around Gibson's film The Passion of the Christ, which is set to open on that hot movie-going holiday, Ash Wednesday. Critics have assailed the movie as anti-Semitic because of its depiction of Jews as unapologetic Christ killers. I, for one, don't see how that's anti-Semitic. Unless, of course, anti-Semitic means against Jews. In that case, maybe just a little. Gibson managed to get a copy of the film to the Vatican, most likely through his Jewish agent, in hopes of getting a papal thumbs up. There's some controversy over whether the Pope enjoyed Gibson's movie, though it is clear who didn't. Anyone who had to sit behind the pontiff during the screening. He just won't take that thing off. Smack it! Next stop, Hebrewica. Of course, Jews enjoy pornography as much as the rest of us, but now an Israeli rabbi has composed a prayer to help protect Orthodox Jews against internet porn. The benediction reads, "Please, God, help me cleanse the computer of viruses and evil photographs, so that I shall be able to cleanse myself." Unfortunately, the prayer does require the user's computer to be equipped with an external USB yarmulke. Interestingly, a good way for the rest of us to stop looking at porn is to imagine Orthodox Jews looking at porn. No whammies! Creationism. If you love natural beauty but think that carbon dating is the work of Satan, you want to check out the Grand Canyon A Different View, a gorgeous coffee table pictorial available at official Grand Canyon gift shops. According to the book, the majestic natural wonder was not the work of millions of years of erosion, but rather was created in just a few days by the biblical flood of Noah's Ark, the same miraculous deluge that carved our future presidents into Mount Rushmore. That was one talented flood. A protest letter has been sent to park officials from leaders of several geological organizations expressing concern that sale of the creationist book violates the park's mandate to teach science, unlike other items in the gift shop which teach valuable scientific principles such as key cohesion, concentrated cuddleosity, and unified travel disappointment theory. Well, that's it for This Week in God. Join me next week when I'll have an exclusive one-on-one interview with the big man himself. Now, I understand you're coming out with a sequel to the Dead Sea Scrolls. Tell us about that.
I see! It's so beautiful! So beautiful! Ah.
It's a good read. Plus, God also joins me in the kitchen to make a poulet en croûte that is literally divine. John?
Thank you very much, Stephen Colbert. We'll be right back.
Okay, shh. There you go. Ah, Mazel Tov. You might want to keep some pressure on that. Oh, and pay the guy with the things. Thank you, John. It's been a busy week for the all-powerful creator of all his forms. So let's bring up the old God machine and get right to it. First up, Christianity, specifically Methodism, more specifically lesbian Methodism. We take you to Bethel, Washington, where openly gay Reverend Karen T. Dahman was put on ecclesiastical trial for engaging in a sapphic lifestyle. Dahman was tried before a jury of 13 Methodist ministers presided over by Bishop William Grove of Charleston, West Virginia, who exemplified the electricity surrounding the trial.
It's very sad, and I look forward to the day when we won't be in settings like this.
Man, Methodists, they make Episcopalians look like Presbyterians. Church conservatives wanted to remove Dahman from the ministry for violating the church's Book of Discipline, but she was acquitted of all charges. Gotta say, for a story about a lesbian violating the Book of Discipline, this wasn't really all that hot. Big money! Islam, which I respect profoundly. Turns out the Virgin Mary isn't the only one who makes cameo appearances on household and/or farm objects. In the West Bank town of Halul, a Palestinian man named Amma Atrash is the proud papa to a newborn lamb locals believe has Allah's name on one side and Muhammad's on the other. Later, things in Halul got a little tense when the lamb appeared to poop out the word Moses in Morse code. Let's move on. Uh-oh! That lightning bolt of Thor can only mean one thing. It's time for This Week in God's Cast Ye from the Garden. Brought to you by the Olive Garden, where every supper is good enough to be your last. If you're an Islamic French schoolgirl who wants to wear a headscarf to class, you'll be saying bonjour to le détention. The French Senate recently voted overwhelmingly to ban Islamic headscarves, as well as other religious attire from public schools. Apparently, in France, the only acceptable use of a scarf is to wave goodbye to one's lover from the train platform at Gare de Lyon as she returns to her stultifying marriage to that bourgeois pig René. You shall never love her, René, as I have loved her. Adieu, mon amour. Okay, moving on. No Satan, no Satan, no Satan. Woo! Hinduism. A British-based Hindu organization is protesting the casting of Tina Turner as the Hindu goddess Shakti in a new merchant ivory production, The Goddess. The problem, say Hindus, is that any representation of Shakti is Shakti. So Hindus will have to worship Tina Turner, even her most recent solo work. Shakti is the mother goddess, the universal principle of energy, power, and creativity, the divine force manifested to destroy the demonic powers and restore balance. The same effect I achieve with my healing crystal.
I'm sorry, Stephen, what is that?
It's my healing crystal, John. It may just look like a rock, but it actually brings with it an alignment of my center and heals my heart chakra.
Really?
Yes, and it also refracts your cynicism into a harmless rainbow of tolerance. Oh, and it cured me of diverticulitis.
Oh.
Yeah, but you don't want to know where I had to stick it. Oh, actually, I had to get another healing crystal to repair that damage. Let me explain.
Actually, no, that'll be fine. Stephen Colbert. Meanwhile, the race to be the next president is well underway. One issue that figures to loom large in the campaign, religion. With a closer look, here's our religion correspondent, Stephen Colbert, and This Week in God.
Thank you, Brother John, and happy Tisha B'Av, or whatever thing you guys are doing this week. As you know, when God wrote the Constitution, he decreed every fourth year after the birth of Jesus Christ should be marked by a presidential election, which is why this is a special Indecision 2004 edition of This Week in God. So let's bring in the old God machine. This time taking the form of a shamefully cheap lever. And away we go! Republicans, otherwise known as the GOP, or God's own party. The Bush campaign has targeted church congregations in an effort to register voters and distribute campaign information, because a new study has found the more often you attend a house of worship, the more likely you are to vote Republican. Fascinating. In a related story, the more often you attend a house of pancakes, the more likely you are to eat syrup. On the bright side, for the Democrats, the study shows that they have a lock on the adulterous, idol-worshipping masturbators vote. And believe me, the country's fairly evenly split. So let's yank the God rod. Who's next? And it's the Democrats. With pro-choice Catholic John Kerry set to receive the Democratic nomination, a Colorado bishop, Michael Sheridan, recently told his parishioners that pro-choice politicians are, quote, out of full communion with the church and so jeopardize their salvation. And remember, as the Bishop of Denver, he's much closer to God than the rest of us at sea level. Sheridan also condemned politicians who support stem cell research, euthanasia, and gay marriage, all of which happen to be Democratic issues, while at the same time ignoring Vatican opposition to Republican policies like the war in Iraq and the death penalty. Coincidence or miracle? Actually, it's just a lighting and sound effect. Okay, let's make some butter. Prayer, or as I like to call it, P-mail. This year, a group called the Presidential Prayer Team is using the power of prayer to transcend partisan bickering. It's a message being spread via a series of radio ads. Let's take a listen.
America is a great nation.
We pray that God will bless America, the land that we all love.
So what can you and I do to help keep America great? According to our president, we can pray. That's why we urge you to join the Presidential Prayer Team.
The nonpartisan Presidential Prayer Team is trying to enlist 2.8 million Americans to pray daily for our Commander-in-Chief, whichever Bush that happens to be. Now, here's how it works. Team members synchronize their prayers from strategic locations in the heartland, and these prayers are relayed directly to God, who is in a geostationary orbit 22,000 miles above Washington. The prayers are then downlinked directly to the president, who then fixes the problems by cutting taxes. The group's spokesman insists it favors neither candidate, although they did say that if Kerry wins, quote, we'll just have to pray harder. Not because they don't like John Kerry, but because God doesn't like John Kerry. Now, before concluding, there is something I should disclose. I actually tried out for the Presidential Prayer Team, but I got cut. They put me on the B squad, where I've been asked to pray for Commerce Secretary Don Evans. Here goes. Dear Lord, you drove the money changers from the temple, but we all make mistakes. Now, in your more up-to-date perfect wisdom, I'm sure you would agree that steel tariffs are...
Stephen, I really don't think we have time for your prayer to Don.
John, I just want to get to the stuff on the trade deficit. Lord,
yes, I think that maybe next time we'll...
Oh, I guess we'll invoke God's blessing next time. That's really sound fiscal policy, John. For This Week in God, I'm Stephen Colbert.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Take 5, everybody. Seth, you were a little flat on the descant, and God is very disappointed. Okay. Oh, hi, and welcome to another edition of This Week in God. You know, God works in many mysterious ways. That's why he has people like me explain exactly what he means and wants without any room for arguing or interpretation by you. So let's get it started with a spin on the original Deus Ex Machina, the God Machine. Hit it! Catholicism. The religion that makes high school girls either no fun at all or pretty wild. Pope John Paul II has released a new 37-page document as a Catholic corrective to the women's equality movement, or feminism. And only 30 years behind the times. They're getting closer. Though the document on the collaboration of men and women in the church and its place in the world is tough on feminism, it does praise what it calls feminine values, such as listening, welcoming, and humility. Qualities emphasized in the Vatican's new video series, Girls Gone Humble. Smack it! Islam, a great religion for which I have the deepest respect. A new soft drink called Mecca Cola is being sold across the Middle East and Europe as an Islamic alternative to Western, more Jesus-based sodas like Coke and Pepsi. In marketing to Mohammed Q public, Mecca Cola uses slogans like "shake your conscience" and "think before you drink." In keeping with Muslim law, the soda's label carries a request not to mix the contents with alcohol. Also, no bacon floats. The founder of Mecca Cola, Tawfiq Mathlouthi, believes the entire world is starting to bow in the direction of flavor.
We are going to start in Latin America, and I'm very proud to say that we sold already inside America, and we are selling very, very regular way in Canada.
You know, hearing him whore a cola named for the holiest site in Islam makes me realize maybe we're not so different after all. Shake that little moneymaker! Judeo-tourism. For some reason, people just aren't traveling to Israel much these days. So the Israeli Tourism Ministry is harnessing the power of celebrity. Minor celebrity. TV's Chris Noth has been named unofficial tourism ambassador to Israel after he took a 10-day trip to the Holy Land. Included on the Sex and the City Stars Jewtinerary, a dip in the Dead Sea, and a visit to that holiest of sites, Jerusalem's Wailing Wall. Of course, usually when Noth hears that much wailing, it's because one of his co-stars just had a shoegasm. Well, that about wraps it up for this particular Week in God. Join us next time when I show you how to pack for the rapture. You'll want a mini shave cream, maybe a sweatshirt, and, of course, your travel harp. Now, hey, could you give me a minute? Of course, that and this are pre-tapes. By now, I've been raptured up. So, to the rest of you, enjoy the lake of fire. John? I tell you what, just take a pamphlet and stop by the compound this weekend. Ask for Star Lamb, okay? That's my star name. Oh, hi! I'm Stephen Colbert, and it's time for another installment of This Week in God, brought to you this week by the Jehovah's Witnesses. Yes, the Jehovah's Witnesses. Your best chance to talk with old Jamaican women. All right, let's bring up the old God machine. The holy prop. Let her rip. Catholicism. Blessed are the children, unless they have food allergies. Meet Haley Walden, an 8-year-old New Jersey girl whose first communion was recently declared invalid because her special gluten-free wafer contained no wheat. The church considers wheat one of the 2 essential ingredients of the communion wafer. The other, corrugated cardboard. But Haley's mom still has some questions for the church.
The question that I pose to the Vatican is, does the divinity of the Eucharist lay in wheat? How does the consumption of a rice-based host versus a wheat-based host corrupt the tradition of the Last Supper?
Well, I would refer her mother to Luke 23:17, where it clearly states, sorry, no substitutions. Get on the scene like a God machine! Christianity, specifically evangelical Christianity. Jerry Falwell's Liberty University is opening a law school to train students how to incorporate fundamentalist Christian values into the practice of law, meaning soon you too will be able to accept Jesus as your personal injury lawyer. Falwell explained members of his lawyerly flock will be no different from other aspiring attorneys.
All of our graduates will have to pass the bar, just like any atheist would have to pass the bar.
As for the Jews, everybody knows they get the answers in advance. Let's go back, Jack, and do it again. Celebrity. If you remember Oh God, the 1977 George Burns classic, Movie. The 1977 movie, you're A, way out of our demographic, and B, in for a big surprise. The 1977 film will soon be remade with actress and comedian Ellen DeGeneres in the role of God. It's quite a stretch for DeGeneres, who, while on a bit of a roll, is not God. The movie is likely to be controversial, and a lawsuit is expected as soon as Liberty Law School pumps out some graduates. One more time. Go, God Machine, go! Judaism for Jesusism. The missionary group known as Jews for Jesus has decided to broaden the base of people they annoy with a new radio ad that's drawing some fire. Take a listen.
Is too. Is not. Is too. The debate began about 2,000 years ago. Is not. Is too.
Apparently, the actors put on Yiddish accents are getting some people fablunged. Several radio stations have asked the group to soften the Yiddish accents and dispense with the klezmer music because it's condescending and offensive. Okay, I just read them, folks. So far, no one has been too pleased with the Jews for Jesus' Compromise commercial spot, which features a conversation between a conniving pawn shop broker and a matzo ball with goat horns. Well, that's all for this Week in God, but join me next time as I travel all the way to Tibet to achieve samsara, inner peace.
Damn it! Is it ow, like ow, I'm in pain, or oh, I've achieved enlightenment? Just say in English once. Just forget it. I want my deposit back. Tranquility, my ass.
That really did a number on my chakras. John?
Thank you very much, Stephen. Stephen Colbert. Religion. It's a powerful healing force in a world torn apart by religion. For the latest theological news, we turn to Stephen Colbert and This Week in God.
Oh, shalakalaka! Oh, shalaka!
Yeah, that feels good. I think I'm ready to try that with real snakes. Oh, hi! I wasn't aware I was on TV. I'm Stephen Colbert, and welcome to This Week in God. As it was in the beginning and ever shall be, let's bring in the God Machine. The Bible, the book that specifically told you not to do that thing you did. But you just had to do it, didn't you? You just couldn't leave it alone. The Republican National Committee is coming under fire for mailing a Get Out the Vote flyer in the Bible Belt, claiming a liberal John Kerry White House would ban the Bible. Truth is, he wants to do something much worse: raise taxes on the Bible. Do you realize that 80% of Bush's tax cut went to Ephesians? That joke killed in Tarsus. Senator Kerry sent his running mate to CBS to refute the RNC flyer.
What the Republicans and George Bush are doing in West Virginia and Arkansas is an outrage.
Even more outrageous, they think they need to lie to make this guy look bad in the Bible Belt. Dominus Vobiscum! Christianity, home of the original Comeback Kid. One of the fastest growing literary markets in the country is Christian publishing. In fact, even Harlequin Romances recently introduced a series of faith-based novels under the publishing imprint Steeple Hill Cafe, a name chosen after focus groups were scared off by the more hardline Armageddon Springs Bagelry. The Steeple Hill barista's top seller is The Whitney Chronicles, a Bridget Jones-like diary of a young Christian woman's daily travails, which asks the universal question, why are all the good men married? Or damned? The saved but single Whitney takes solace in this Bible passage. People judge by outward appearance, but the Lord looks at a person's thoughts and intentions. Unfortunately, the Lord thinks her intentions are a little chunky. You know you love it, God Machine! Islam, about which there is nothing amusing. Some call it a religion of peace, others a warrant for extremism. But Six Flags New Jersey calls it your ticket to ride. The theme park recently closed its doors to the public and held what they called a Great Muslim Adventure Day. The park banned immodest dress, provided halal meat, and eliminated all forms of lascivious dancing, except, unfortunately, for this. Nobody wants to declare a fatwa? Nobody? Entertainment was provided by a Muslim comedy group known as Allah Made Me Funny. They have this one great bit. You ever notice how men drive like this, while women must be subject to their husband's will? Am I right, ladies? That's all for this week. Join us next time when I seek transcendence through sensory deprivation.
Oh, yes. That's it. Oh, magnificent.
Okay, I'm ready for that deprivation tank now. Until then, I'm Stephen Colbert saying, keep the faith, unless it's heresy. John?
Thank you so much, Stephen. Nicely done. We'll be right back.
This, actually not a good time for me to do this, John. Just took a vow of silence. Oh, fish! Fine.
Acting!
So angry. Welcome to This Week in God. Our periodic roundup of stories from the world of religion. If it's worth suspending rational thought for, it's on This Week in God. So let's conjure up the old machine. And away we God! Christianity. Pharmaceutical Christianity. Some devoutly religious pharmacists are refusing to fill prescriptions for birth control, citing their moral opposition to contraception. Viagra, on the other hand, that crank makes your Jimmy thicker. And that is the gospel truth. Texas pharmacist Steve Mosier explained why he doesn't dispense the pill.
I just cannot go with participating in taking the life of an innocent human being.
Remember, he's talking about birth control pills, the ones that prevent fertilization, because for Mosier, life begins as soon as you think of having sex. By the way, the average adult male creates life every 7 seconds. There she goes. A little more. In their defense, pharmacists say they've received no complaints from their customers who aren't huge sluts. The reproductive rights advocates are concerned that curtailed access to prescriptions could force women to turn to dangerous black market contraceptionists. By the way, ladies, if any of you need a hookup, I'm holding. The Muslim holy day of Ramadan ended recently, But since you didn't know that, we're going to take a closer look at the holiday with our non-Judeo-Christian demi-minute, because 30 seconds is the exact amount of time Americans can tolerate something we don't understand. Let's start the clock. Ramadan is the 9th and best-known month of the Islamic calendar. It's a time of prayer and reflection, marked by daytime fasting, daytime celibacy, and daytime denial of all pleasure. But oh, those Ramadan nights. You get to eat. Muslims believe Ramadan is when Allah sets the world's fate for the coming year. So here it is, a This Week in God exclusive. The fate of the world in the coming year is... Oh, and our time is up. Oh, man. I would not want to be in that hemisphere that day. Note to self, buy Mountain House. This is going to hurt me more than it hurts you. Bap! Jerry Falwell, sort of his own religion, really. Televangelist Jerry Falwell says he plans to resurrect the Moral Majority Christian lobby group, which disbanded in 1989. According to Falwell, the revamped religious group will have a three-part mission: working for the appointment of conservative Supreme Court judges, securing a constitutional ban on gay marriage, and backing conservatives for elective office. Wow, you know, I look at that list and I wonder, whatever happened to condemning the Jews? But Falwell hasn't lost his sense of Christian fellowship, appearing on Wolf Blitzer's Late Edition to discuss the war on terrorism.
We got to kill the terrorists before the killing stops. And I'm for the president. Chase them all over the world. If it takes 10 years, blow them all away in the name of the Lord.
In a related story, Jesus has quit. Well, that's it for This Week in God. Join me next time when I show you how to make your own voodoo curse potion with the help of celebrity witch doctor Papa Philippe. Then I fold in a quarter cup of my enemy's blood. Remember, always fresh blood, never frozen. That kills the juju. All right, let's give this a taste. Oh, Brian Williams. I think you will find Brokaw's chair anything but comfortable to fill. Do you want to try a little Brian Williams blood? Returning to my vow of silence, I'm Stephen Colbert. John?
We'll be right back after this.
Hi, I'm Stephen Colbert, and this... Oh, is this another prophecy unto me? Because I can't really speaketh right now. I've got this thing. Can you give me 5? Thanks. Call me. And welcome to a very special holiday edition of This Week in God. It's the end of the year, according to the Western calendar, otherwise known as the calendar. So, for one last time, let's bring up the ultimate stocking stuffer, the God Machine. Ring me up! Islam, about which I am not worthy to speak. There's never been a better time to join the religion voted angriest 3 years running, because today's Muslim has something new to worship 5 times a day. Al-Manar, the official channel of the radical Islamic group Hezbollah, which is available to satellite viewers in France. But the French government is cracking down on Al-Manar just because it recently aired a series about a murderous rabbi who used the blood of Christian children to make matzah. It's kind of a shame, actually, because I have a brief cameo. Oh, is this good matzo ball soup? Let me guess. Lutheran? Just for the record, I never do anti-Semitic unless it's integral to the character. Or true. I hit this God machine, pa-rum-pa-pum, bip! Judaism. 5,000 years old, but I swear it's had work done. This Hanukkah season has seen the introduction of a new credit card that refuses to work on the Jewish Sabbath. The card, issued by Israel's Bank Leumi, is specially programmed to shut off between Friday and Saturday evening and can only be used at businesses that observe the Sabbath. Best of all, the card comes with a very reasonable APR of 16, but for you, 14%. It's a handy convenience for Orthodox Jews, but another bad break for Jerusalem's already struggling Saturday-only porcatorium. Just really didn't do their homework on that one. Come on, Gimel! Kwanzaa, a quasi-religious festival invented in 1966 by a Cal State Long Beach professor. Kwanzaa is a real up-and-comer, and as proof, this year it finally has its own Grinch, televangelist Pat Robertson of the 700 Club.
And from all I can tell, this Kwanzaa is an absolute fraud. You know, there was no festival in Africa called Kwanzaa. I mean, it's made up by a bunch of hippie types on the West Coast.
Yeah. When it comes to religion, you really don't want to listen to a bunch of long-haired hippie types. Don't make me put my rings on. Oh, and time for a This Week in God holiday consumer alert. And if you're a member of the church O Centro Espírita Beneficiente União do Vegetal, which mixes Christian and indigenous Brazilian traditions, whatever you do, do not drink the tea. I'll explain. The U.S. Department of Justice has been fighting to ban a special hallucinogenic tea used by the New Mexico sect during its ceremonies. The tea in question, called Hosca, is brewed from plants found in the Amazon River Basin and is, might I add, quite refreshing. It's a complex case, but let me break it down for you. On one side, you have the constitutional Grandfather Bear, I need your wisdom to hunt the Serpent King. I am a jaguar of the immortal fire. John?
Thank you very much, Stephen. We will be... Your desk is like water. I'm drinking it with my fingers. We'll be right back.
Yep, this one's the holy water. And this one's Pepsi. Oh, hi! I didn't realize I made a living on television. Welcome to This Week in God. There's a lot to get to this week, so let's call up the Machina Ex Deus we like to call the God Machine. Fire! Television/Islam. Televislam. The Council on American Islamic Relations is up in arms, metaphorically, over the new season of Fox's hit drama 24, which depicts a Muslim family that's actually a terrorist cell. Come on, Muslim. This is a show that had a black president. 24 is obviously played out against a farcical dreamscape of a laughably implausible world. Now, in response, Fox will air a PSA showing American Muslims in a positive light.
Muslims are part of the fabric of this great country and are working to build a better America.
I am an American Muslim.
And I am an American Muslim.
I am an American Muslim.
And I am an American Muslim. Oh. That's a little embarrassing, but in my own defense, I was a Muslim at the time we shot that. Prison can be a lonely place. Demons out! Atheism. the religion devoted to the worship of one's own smug sense of superiority. Michael Newdow, the atheist who filed suit to strike the words "under God" from the Pledge of Allegiance, recently filed another suit, this time to prevent prayer from being said at last week's inauguration. And how'd that work out for you, Michael?
And now unto you, O God, I humbly submit this prayer in the name of Jesus Christ.
Ooh, that must sting. Where's your no God now, Michael? Let's keep the holy rolling. Oh, that sound means it's time for This Week in God's Birthdays. Can you guess who I am? Born this week in 1504, I later became famous for embracing lepers, washing the feet of the poor, and outlawing both bullfights and prostitution in the Vatican. As I lay dying an agonizing death, my last words were, "O Lord, increase my sufferings and my patience." Okay, I'm making this too easy. I am Pope Pius V. He shares a birthday with CSI Miami star David Caruso and sexy bangles Susanna Hoffs. Happy birthday, Your Former Holiness. Hit it! I'm too fast for you, old man. Christians! Turns out atheists aren't the only ones with their beliefs in a bundle over the inauguration. Some Christians are complaining the Secret Service discriminated against them by enforcing security guidelines banning crosses from the president's inaugural parade route. The Reverend Patrick J. Mahoney of the Christian Defense Coalition objected, noting, quote, "They are not banning large displays of the Star of David or Islamic symbols." Well, no, if we ban an Islamic symbol, we're liable to get blown up or something. I'm sorry, I'm being told we have to show this now.
I am an American Muslim.
I am an American Muslim.
Well, that's all for This Week in God, but before we go, let's take a look at last weekend's collection plates. Catholics are in the lead, no surprise there. Baptists coming in a strong second, Methodists, Scientologists, I'll just check Variety, and Jews for Jesus, once again, bupkis. But then again, can you really put a price on annoying two religions at once? John?
Thank you very much. Stephen Colbert. We'll be right back.
Hi. As John so recently said, I'm Stephen Colbert. The tension between Sunnis and Shiites has prompted us to create a new segment here at This Week in God. Let's talk about sex. It's the moment every parent dreads. Mommy, Daddy, where do jihads come from? Well, it's really quite simple. Sometimes when a Shia, who believes Muhammad's son-in-law Ali became Islam's leader after the Prophet's death, meets up with a Sunni, who's just as sure power actually went to a series of caliphs, well, they meet up and they lock horns in a violent struggle for control of a religion based on that 1,300-year-old political dispute. It's a conflict that's played out in the Middle East for centuries and is now a great source of instability for the entire world. And it sure as heck isn't going to go away because of one lousy election. Good night, sweetie. Okay, now it's time to summon the immaculate contraption known as the God Machine. The Pope, the Vatican's comeback kid. Last week, John Paul II, God's infallible ambassador on earth, got over the flu and left the hospital in Rome in the comfort and safety of his Pope-mobile. A happy contrast to the scene 2 weeks earlier when he arrived at the same hospital in his Populance. The recovery means the Pope can now resume his busy daily schedule, which leads us to this week's installment of our ongoing papal quiz, What's the Pope Blessing Now? Can you guess what's being sanctified? He likes them holy. I like them medium rare. They're lambs. Just before his hospital trip, JP2 gave the old imprimatur to 2 lambs whose wool will be used to make traditional clothing for archbishops. And if there's any left over, custom seat covers for the Pope's Camaro. The man loves his wheels. Give it to me, baby. Orthodox Judaism. Dietary Laws Unit. Good news for Orthodox Jews who have a little tillich in their schmecken. The Orthodox Union recently made the cough syrup Triminic the first ever over-the-counter medicine to be certified as kosher. It's a welcome relief to Jewish cold sufferers who, until now, have been unable to use such popular remedies as Porcatussin and new Porcatussin PM. May cause drowsiness, nausea, and the wrath of a vengeful Jehovah. Stop! Hammer time! Catholics and condoms. 2 great tastes that don't go so well together. Last month, Spain's Catholic Church broke with tradition and endorsed the use of condoms. But just 1 week later, the Vatican magically made them change their minds. And the Spanish Church now says, quote, use of condoms is immoral sexual conduct. Oh, come on. What would high Catholic Church officials know about immoral sexual conduct? Hey, everybody. How about one more chance to see if you can guess what's the Pope blessing now? It's, what's that? Oh, breakdancers. This I gotta see. Actually, the Pope blessed only one of those dancers, who in turn passed it on to the others. Well, that's all God did this week. Be sure to tune in next week for my exclusive interview with His Holiness, the Pope. First of all, I just want to say I'm sorry about the whole what was the Pope blessing thing we did last week. It's just that we have this great footage of you blessing things, and you have to admit you do bless a lot of things. Nothing? That hurts. For This Week in God, I'm Stephen Colbert. John?
Thank you so much, Stephen. God, a towering source of comfort for those beset by tragedies wrought by acts of God. He's a mysterious figure. Here to decipher his latest doings, our own Stephen Colbert, and This Week in God.
You do not want to go in there. Welcome to another edition of This Week in God. I'm Stephen Colbert, and I've given up the God machine for Lent. So instead, let's bring out its divine backup, the deity contraption. Bring it on. 40 days of this. All right, crank it. Prayer offensives. Last week, as the Supreme Court heard arguments for and against displaying the 10 Commandments on government property, pro-commandment demonstrators gathered outside to take their case to the Supremer Judge. Pray a little bit softer now. Pray a little bit softer now.
Know he's here today because we brought him with us. We know he's here today because he is in our hearts.
Wow, so God's right there in your hearts. Remind me again why you need a monument. Another religious group vowed to, quote, pray hard enough to penetrate the bricks and mortar of the Supreme Court building. Penetrate bricks and mortar? My God, the God they're praying to is the Kool-Aid guy. No Kool-Aid guy. No Kool-Aid guy. Leave our third branch of government alone. Assalamu alaikum alaikum assalam. Judaism. Specifically, Hollywood Judaism. Well, Judaism. Orthodox Jews are angry at Natalie Portman for filming a makeout scene next to Jerusalem's Wailing Wall, one of Judaism's holiest sites. According to news reports, a group of men chased Portman off the set while shouting, "Whores, whores." By the way, kissing near the Wailing Wall, a blasphemy. Shouting the word whore next to it, that honors the tradition. Ms. Portman discussed the incident on Access Hollywood.
As soon as it offended people, we moved and did it elsewhere because we had a very hectic work schedule. So, I don't know. I was so all over the place. We weren't thinking. We shouldn't have done it.
Clearly a lesson learned. Look for a somber tone when Portman's film, Porky's 4, Next Beer in Jerusalem, is released later this year. Oh no! Oh no! Something's happening! It's a schism! And this time, it's Anglican. In response to the recent blessing of same-sex marriages in Canada and the ordination of an openly gay bishop in New Hampshire, the World Anglican ruling body has kicked out its North American brethren to protect the sanctity of marriage. The sanctity of marriage is an important issue to the Anglican Church, something they've fought for since day one. Well, day two, actually. On day one, they split off from the Catholic Church so that King Henry VIII could get a divorce. But ever since then, it's all about the sanctity of marriage. The North American churches can't be reinstated until the next meeting of the world's Anglican bishops in 2008. Even then, it will have to compete with other pressing bishop-related issues, like moving diagonally. Is there another way? Bless this mess! Oh! Time for another installment of Stephen Colbert's chicken broth-based liquid for the spirit. There was a copyright issue. Today's inspirational quote comes from none other than Kirstie Alley, star of the series Fat Actress, who said recently of her struggle to lose weight, "I'm a Scientologist, and I set the goal to outcreate it." Good luck, Kirstie. Every time I try to outcreate my weight, my action phrase ends up reinforcing my engrams past my acceptance level down a gradient scale of my grief charge. And then it's back to the Haagen-Dazs. Well, that's all God manifested temporarily this week. Be sure to tune in this weekend, after hours, for the latest installment of my new, highly unethical series, Confession Booth Confessions.
Go on, my child.
Well, it was a really hot night, and the air conditioner at the sorority house was broken.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And Amanda and I just wanted to cool off.
Who could blame you?
So we started making daiquiris.
Uh-huh.
Because they just feel so good going down your throat.
Right. Can't even taste the alcohol.
Oh. Oh. She needs some forgiveness. John?
Thank you, Stephen. Well done.
Om Shanti Shanti Om Namo Narayanaya Shanti Shanti. Oh, hi! Sorry, hold on one second. Sorry. I didn't see you in my state of pure transcendent consciousness. But as long as you've disturbed my ecstatic, excuse me. Hi. I'm sorry, I forgot to unswallow my tongue and re-engage my limbic system. As long as you've disturbed my ecstatic nothingness, might as well, I don't know, bring in the God machine. Oh, you know you want it, baby. Interreligious harmony. Jews, Christians, and Muslims have had their differences over the centuries, but recently, leaders of the big three religions dressed up in their Sunday/Friday/Saturday best for an unprecedented show of unity in the holy city of Jerusalem. And what force was strong enough to help them overcome their fear and hatred of each other? These guys. Gay people, a.k.a. manotheists. The clerics held a press conference to jointly denounce a gay pride march scheduled for Jerusalem this August. Rabbi Yehuda Levin of the Orthodox Rabbinical Alliance of America explained, quote, "This is the this is not the homo land, this is the Holy Land." Adding, "This is Israel, not Hisrael." Not Jerusalem. And then finally adding, "We're the children of Abraham, not Gabraham." He was then stoned to death. I smite thee! Sciencism. IMAX movies. You're familiar with them if you've ever been an elementary school student on a field trip or a college student on a mushroom trip. Recently, several IMAX theaters in the South have declined to show a documentary called Volcanoes of the Deep Sea, fearing backlash from religious groups unhappy about the film's endorsement of evolution. Other IMAX theaters are hedging their bets, showing the film, but only with these special 3D glasses. Easy as pie. And retitling the film Jesus versus the Volcano. I don't think I need to tell you who wins. Where's it coming from? Oh, what's that? Sounds like the This Week in God Express is pulling into the manifestation, where your blind faith gets that little bit of physical evidence it needs. Just, gooses it a little. First up, the mother of all manifestations, the Shroud of Turin. The linen panel many Christians believe bears the image of the Messiah and, on a personal note, the entire basis of my belief in God. But an English professor in Idaho says he's come up with a low-tech method that could have been used to forge the shroud.
I painted a picture of Christ, or a Christ-like face, in a glass and placed it over dark linen and left it in the sun for approximately 10 days.
That wouldn't work. Would it? There is no God. We're all just floating blobs of protoplasm in a God. What's that, Australia? You say the Virgin Mary's appeared on a soiled bedsheet? Let's see it. That's her, right, Padre?
Yes, I suppose you can identify it as having facial sort of features, but it's not something that has a miraculous impact on me.
I got to agree with Father. If that sheet's a holy manifestation, then I'm working on a miracle in my jockeys. Well, that's all God did this week. But tune in next time when I explore the mysterious world of secular humanism.
After this.
Love it.
All right, so Max,
no, wasn't present in this time.
but did you let him go around to look?
It's criminal.
John?
Stephen Colbert! We'll be right back.
Hi. Sorry, I was just taking an online course in tantric spiritual sexuality. It opens your chakras to the infinite, and it prolongs your boner. If you have broadband. Anywho, welcome to another edition of This Week in God. Raise the God. Hold on, actually, first raise the camera. Now, raise the God machine. Behold, it is raisined. Ah, the Indian Daily Double, where we explore the spiritual heritage of the two proud peoples we call Indians. the Native American kind, and the kind who man our telemarketing centers for $1.20 an hour, and you think they're British, but they're not. First, the Tribal Council of the Navajo Nation has voted to outlaw same-sex marriage, citing spiritual reasons. And with that, the Navajo Nation solved the one and only problem not plaguing its people. But there is a downside. When all the gays have left the Navajo Nation, who then will design the turquoise jewelry? From North America to South Asia, where residents of the Indian city of Calcutta have sanctioned an unusual marriage between two trees. Locals performed the ceremony to ward off the evil eye. By the way, if there are any Navajos watching, it was a male tree and a female tree. Nothing weird. Well, nothing weird until their wedding night. Check out this hidden camera footage. Oh, yeah. Somebody got pollinated.
Rope-a-dope!
The Church of Body Modification. Can I get a courtesy smack, please? That's better. A woman who claims she belongs to the Church of Body Modification is suing Costco for wrongful termination after the store fired her for refusing to remove her eyebrow ring. By the way, at Costco, for $3.75, you can get a gross of eyebrow rings. What are you going to do with that? That's a good look for him. Oh, moving on. If Super Bowl victory speeches have taught us anything, it's that God personally decides the outcome of everything on earth. Let's see what events the infinite Lord of creation micromanaged this week on Praised or Hazed. Praised, Giacomo, the 50-1 underdog, was resurrected at last Sunday's Kentucky Derby. Why? Because Jesus loves a long shot. Not so blessed, pre-race favorite Bellamy Road, who came in 8th. God hates him so much. Sub-Saharan Africa was hazed with another week of brutal civil wars and famine, but on the praise side, the weather is sunny and mild. So once again, Sub-Saharan Africa, hard to know what God's thinking there. Finally, I had these amazing strawberries last night. Apparently, a real bumper crop this year. So, people who like strawberries, feeling God's love. Right back at you. Well, that's all God had time for this week. Join us next time when a spiritual crisis leaves me in the metaphysical void.
Oh, Lord, is there no purpose to your creation? Do the stars blindly run? What? Hey!
$5. That's next time. John.
Thank you so much, Stephen. We'll be right back.
Unjambi, make my loins fruitful. For lo, my manstalk has lain withered and fallow for these Hello! I was just performing some ancient African fertility rites. For a friend. God machine. Thank you. Smite it! The Vatican, the city that never sins. 6 weeks after the death of Pope John Paul II, the Catholic Church is already beginning the process by which the late pontiff could achieve sainthood. Candidates for sainthood must undergo a 5-year waiting period before they can be considered, but new Pope Benedict XVI was able to waive that rule in this case, noting that he's the Pope, and what are you going to do about it, bitch? To achieve beatification, John Paul must meet the standard saintly requirements. He or she must be dead, very important, must have lived an exemplary life, performed 2 miracles, or in a pinch, 4 really impressive but completely explainable things. His or her saint's name must sound good as the name of a college, church, or U.S. Virgin Island. And finally, there can be no documentary evidence impugning their holiness. That, of course, the main reason for the delay behind Mother Teresa's canonization. Mama T Goes Wild 6, Calcutta Nights. Oh! She should have thought of that beforehand. Now, it's your chance to pray along at home with the This Week in God quiz. It's been 485 years since the Aztecs mistook Spanish conquistadors for the descendants of the god Quetzalcoatl, allowing them to ransack their cities and subjugate the Aztec people. But do you know in which month of the Aztec calendar it happened? Was it Teoleco, Atamotzli, or Tlaka-Itzli? We'll have the answer later in the segment. Gotta have faith, the faith, the faith. Judgment Day. Don't worry, not the big one. That's not till August. Last week, the Supreme Court upheld a federal law requiring state prisons to accommodate inmates' religious beliefs, even for non-traditional faiths. The case was brought by 3 prisoners, a witch, a Satanist, and a racial separatist. Of course, we all know the old joke about the witch, the Satanist, and the racial separatist. I'll spare you the setup, but the punchline is, I'll sacrifice to anybody if he just gets that black baby off his pitchfork. You know, okay, but that joke kills at covens, black masses, and Klan meetings. The ruling means prisons must allow convicts to practice their chosen religion in any way they see fit. So look for a revival and popularity of the first church of stabbing the guard with a sharpened screwdriver. You just won't listen! Oh, for Christ's sake. Yes, if you can do it, eat it, or smell it, you can do it, eat it, or smell it for Christ's sake. Take surfing. In Hawaii, Christian groups like Surfing the Nations have organized volunteers to travel the globe, surfing and spreading the gospel. And trust me, you don't know the meaning of endless summer until you get stuck talking to a surfing missionary at a luau. If surfing's not your thing, you might prefer a Christian cookbook, such as What Would Jesus Eat?, which purports to reveal the diet of Christ himself. It's in a bookstore near you, provided you live in a state where there aren't that many bookstores. Finally, let's not forget aromatherapy for Christ. The miracle candle, whose bouquet was inspired by a biblical verse saying Jesus' robes will be fragrant with aloe, myrrh, and cassia. It's a subtle spiritual scent you can use to mask that burrito you just cast into the porcelain abyss. Man, somebody get the Messiah in here. It's time now for the answer to the This Week in God quiz. In what month were the ancient Aztecs robbed of gold and enslaved by Spanish conquistadors? If you said Tlaka-Ixtlip-Ihualitzli, you're a moron. The correct answer is, of course, all of them. Conquistadors spent not months, but years exploiting and destroying the early Mexican peoples, thanks to the fact that the Spaniards' god was real. Interesting side note, Aztec culture totally destroyed. Well, the god trough is empty. Join me next week when I'm joined by special guest, Zoroastrian god Ahura Mazda. Ahura Mazda, Zoroastrian god of infinite wisdom, do you often manifest yourself as sort of a wispy-framed 23-year-old production assistant?
Just trying something new.
John?
Thank you so much, Stephen Colbert. Program. Here at The Daily Show, it's my job to report on the horrible news. But for the good news, we turn to our own Stephen Colbert with This Week in God.
Welcome to the first edition of This Week in God in our new studio. And with the new studio comes a new, more interactive God machine. Behold, the God Machine 2.0. Now with chalice holder. I no longer have to search for my holy grail. That is transubstantialicious. Anyway, let's get right to it. Mash that minaret. Hinduism, over 837 million served. But now, the McDonald's Corporation is apologizing to the members of the religion for not disclosing that their French fries are cooked in beef tallow. So, if you're a Hindu who ate these fries and therefore violated ahimsa, the law of dharmic non-injury, and are therefore damned to the 7 Hindu hells only to return as an untouchable, McDonald's would like to say, sorry. And offer you a coupon for a complimentary McGriddle. Brahma creates, Vishnu sustains, the McGriddle satisfies. Hey, that music means it's time for This Week in God's edition of Hooray for Holywood, where we take a closer look at the religions of the stars. This week, Scientology. You've probably asked yourself lately, hey, what is Scientology? Well, it's the religion that has brought so much peace and stability to Tom Cruise.
Have you ever felt this way?
What's it all about? According to founder and science fiction author L. Ron Hubbard, once upon a time there was an alien overlord named Xenu who flew aliens to Earth, or TGAC as it was then known, chained them to volcanoes, blew them up with hydrogen bombs, which released the exploded thetans, which are now inside all of us and are the source of all human suffering. And only through Scientology can you get those alien ghosts out of your body. If only they'd throw in a burning bush or a virgin birth. Something that made sense. Anyway, I've just saved you thousands of dollars in church auditing fees, and probably earned myself an angry phone call from the attorney of Mr. Cruise, or the attorney of TV's Dharma, or the voice of Bart Simpson, or the hot girl from JAG, Elvis's daughter, Juliette Lewis, her dad, the older brother from Malcolm in the Middle, and his brother with the afro, that girl that looks like Julia Stiles, Isaac Hayes, Greta Van Susteren, maybe Courtney Love, not sure, fat actress, Travolta, jazz fusion notable Chick Corea, the Queen of Queens, Giovanni Ribisi, and Beck. Really? Beck? Huh. Maybe I should check this Scientology thing out. Beck. Dayenu! Catholicism. Around the Vatican, that new Pope smell is finally fading. But try telling that to the residents of the Bavarian town where Joseph Ratzinger was born. The birthplace of Pope Benedict XVI is for sale, and pilgrims have been visiting the place morning, noon, and night.
We came here when we knew that the new Pope was from here. So we came here to see where he was born and to know his house, his friends, and as much as possible as we could know about him.
And we came to tailgate. By the time we get to Fatima, we're going to be totally faced. Well, that's it for This Week in God. Join me next week when... Hold on, I'm sorry, it's my cell. Hold on a second. Shalom. Yes, this is he. No, counselor, I was not denigrating Scientology or your client's belief in it. Yes, I know it's a real religion. That's why it's on This Week in God. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to seem glib. Maybe it was just my Ritalin talking. There's no need to yell. Listen, do you mind me if I ask you a question? How do you know about this before it's even on the air? Really? Oh, hi. Wow, you guys are good. John.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Stephen Colbert, and welcome to This Week in God. First off, a correction. Last week, I reported the rapture was coming sometime Thursday afternoon. Well, it turns out I was wrong, and we got some pretty angry emails on Friday. My apologies to anyone who quit their jobs and/or stopped watering their plants. The rapture will, in fact, occur next Thursday. That should take care of that. So let's bring up the God machine. Smack it! Islam. Moderate Islam. For years, Islamic extremists have issued fatwas to demonize their targets. But last week, moderate American Islamic leaders issued a fatwa of their own.
Islam strictly condemns religious extremism and the use of violence against innocent lives. There is no justification in Islam for extremism or terrorism.
Wow. A fatwa on other fatwas. A fatwa squared, a meta-fatwa, if you will. You know, that's really one for the fatwa fans. The anti-violence fatwa will be brought to the American public by way of public service announcements like this one.
As Muslims, we want to state clearly
that those who commit acts of terror in the name of Islam are betraying the teachings of the Quran and the Prophet Muhammad.
The terrorists are up at 3 a.m. watching the PAX network. Bless this mess! Rastafarianism. Last week, 60 Rastafari from around the world gathered in Guyana to press for global tolerance of their religious views. Among their demands, a call for widespread legalization of marijuana, which they consider a sacrament. But wait a second. Marijuana is a sacrament and you could only get 60 people to show up? Where are you getting your stuff? Listen, I know a guy. Talk to me later when God's not watching. Now, many people are unaware Rastafarianism is a religious movement. A few facts. It emerged in Jamaica in the 1930s. Its followers worship the late Ethiopian Emperor Haile Selassie as their god. Its symbol is the Lion of Judah, and that white guy in your dorm with the dreadlocks isn't one. He's just in it for the sacraments. It's time for this week's Blasphemy. When I, Stephen Colbert, mock a deity to find out whether he, she, or it is really all that. This week, I'm saying a big screw you to the ancient Aztec god, Quetzalcoatl. All right. Hey, Quetzalcoatl, nice feathers. Did they have a men's department where you got those? And what's with the mouth? Did you descend into the netherworld and outwit Mictlan Tecuhtli, Lord of the Dead, to collect bones and sprinkle them with your own blood to create humankind? With that mouth? Show me what you got. You have 5 seconds to strike me down. Quetzalcoatl, plumed serpent god of the Aztecs, you are a pussy. What is the sound of one hand smacking? The power of prayer. Update. Back in 2003, televangelist Pat Robertson launched his Supreme Court prayer offensive, asking viewers to pray for vacancies in the court. So, how's it going?
2 years ago, I felt an urgent need for America to pray for a dramatic change in the U.S. Supreme Court. We're witnessing God's answer to our prayers.
It took 2 years for God to answer Pat Robertson's prayer? What's God been doing? Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah. I get it. Movement of the planets and everything. Anyway, now Justice O'Connor is out of the Supreme Court picture. So, is Pat Robertson satisfied?
Take control, Lord. We ask for additional vacancies on the court.
Being a Supreme Court justice is a lifetime appointment, so what could all this mean for elderly liberal Justice John Paul Stevens? Ooh, rough prayer breakfast. Well, that about does it for this week in This Week in God, but you know, before we go, I'd like to wish all of our Jewish friends a happy Tisha B'Av.
Actually, Stephen?
Yes.
I don't mean to interrupt. Tisha B'Av is actually, it's a day of mourning.
Really? Okay. Well, in that case, have a very mournful Tisha B'Av. I'm Stephen Colbert, and I'd like to introduce my lovely wife, Rebecca. No! I told you not to look back! Why did you look back? Oh, well. Ladies, you know what that means. I'm available. After a suitable period of mourning, I'm available. Let's bring up the God Machine. Scroll them if you got them. Buddhism, the official religion of chubby chasers. For 1,600 years, these massive Buddhas stood carved into the cliffs of the Bamiyan Valley in Afghanistan. Then they got under the skin of the Taliban, who destroyed them in 2001. 2001, pretty aggressive year for them. But 4 years later, a hero has risen up to defend the Buddhas. Specifically, Hiro Yamagata, a Japanese artist who's proposed a $9 million installation to recreate the statues using lasers. The project would be shown every Sunday night for 4 hours. Conveniently enough, Afghanistan also happens to be the world's largest producer of the opiates you'd need to sit through a 4-hour laser light show about statues. Kismet. Yamagata hopes the show will be a tranquil, soothing way of recreating spiritual symbols by getting that thing off my face. Who was that? Who did it? Was it the kid? Was it you? You are dead, little mister. Lock the door. Now it's time for This Week in God's Comparison, where we find out how different religions punish you for the same unholy action. This week's sin, masturbation. Once again, let's compare how some of the world's major faiths deal with this infraction, starting with Catholicism, which defines masturbation as an intrinsically and gravely disordered action for which you can never be forgiven unless you say you're sorry. It's the same strict standard of forgiveness that also applies to you murdering your family, which, as sins go, is a close second. Next up, Islam. While most of imams agree masturbation is haram or forbidden, there is no set punishment for the act itself. Still, the general punishment for all violations of Islamic law does apply. The masturbator's sister will be killed. Hey, you breaks the law, you takes her chances. And finally, the First Church of Constant Masturbation actually does not consider masturbation a sin. In fact, turns out it is fundamental to their religion. Evidently, their Messiah was masturbated to death by the Romans. Inshallah Kazam! Islam. And they're everywhere these days, including France, where they're finally having things their way as a new restaurant is opened outside Paris called Burger King Muslim. Finally, a story combining France's two greatest passions, immigrants and fashion. The restaurant's meat is slaughtered according to Islamic dietary laws, or halal, although apparently after that, anything goes. So far, BKM is getting rave reviews from its customers.
My son and I, we come here all the time. He adores the food. I know, he looks a little down, but it's just the typical Muslim youth feeling alienated from his family culture. I'm sure nothing will come of it.
BKM's menu includes specialties like le bacon halal and le double cool cheese. You know, those names kind of remind me of that scene from Pulp Fiction. You gotta watch those trans fats. Triglycerides, very tough on the ticker. Well, that's all for This Week in God. Join me this Sunday at 9 for the premiere of my hilarious new practical joke series, Baptized.
Hey, Brennan. Something funny in my tea. Check it out.
Dude, you just got totally baptized. You see these two good dudes over here with cameras? They were videotaping what I just did to you, and then we're going to show it on TV. Yes. That's Sunday at 9 o'clock, right after Circumcised. John?
Thank you very much, Stephen. Stephen Colbert. We'll be right back.
Oh, hi. I was just fashioning a female helpmate from one of my ribs. Sorry, honey. I got to go to work now. Come on, don't look at me like that. We'll talk about this later. Women. Welcome to This Week in God. Usually, this is when I call for the old God machine, but there'll be no beep, boop, boop, beep, boop, boop this time around, because we're going to focus all our attention on the actual God machine known as Hurricane Katrina. Much like last year's tsunami, Katrina has again raised the age-old question, why do bad things happen to... Well, why do bad things happen? It's a conundrum pondered over the centuries by men like St. Augustine, Maimonides, Reinhold Niebuhr, and most recently, this theologian.
If he's a good God and he's on your side, why did he flood New Orleans, something he could have prevented?
Hath the Lord forsaken us? That next, but first, Kelly Ripa. Some Christians tried to explain Katrina's devastation. Referring to a planned gay pride parade, Michael Markavage of the evangelical group Repent America told the Washington Post, quote, "The day Bourbon Street and the French Quarter was flooded was the day that 125,000 homosexuals were going to be celebrating sin in the streets." It's an interesting theory, especially since the French Quarter was one of the few places that didn't flood, unlike the 9th Ward, Jefferson Parish, and St. Bernard Parish. So, if anything, the lesson is God loves gays, but hates the gay adjacent. But Steve LaFamine of South Carolina's Columbia Christians for Life isn't subscribing to simplistic theories like that. According to him, God judged New Orleans for the sin of shedding innocent blood through abortion. His evidence? The striking similarity he saw between this satellite image of Katrina and this image of an 8-week-old fetus. Now, this may seem like an extreme assertion, but to be fair, he also predicted Katrina on his website's 5-day forecast. All true. By the way, it's not just fundamentalist Christians who think we were asking for it. Even the Dalai Lama got on his high, whatever they ride in Dalai Lama land.
Such a disaster, which is very, very painful, unspeakable sort of experiences. Now, these things also, you see, due to our own past karma or action.
So there you have it, citizen of New Orleans. It's your fault. Well, your previous incarnation's fault. Maybe next time you're a 13th century serf, you'll ask your vassal lord whether you can use the oxen before you till the fallow field. Let's face it, you were asking for it. Lastly, there's a sect known as meteorologists. They believe Katrina was caused by warm, moist air rising to meet colder air, forming clusters of thunderstorms that, fed by the Earth's rotation, created a self-strengthening storm cycle. Right. And then it rode off on a unicorn. Anyway, that is our Katrina coverage. Before we go, we want to welcome a new sponsor to This Week in God.
Rich, creamy, delicious. Pat's Diet Shake. Pat Robertson's own blend of nutritional ingredients.
I had one for breakfast this morning, and it's absolutely delicious.
That's debatable. Well, that's all the time we have this week. The Lord may work in mysterious and sometimes painful ways, but to paraphrase another theologian, Donald Rumsfeld, sometimes you have to worship the God you have, not the one you want. I'm Stephen Colbert, and John, I wish you a most joyous Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur is actually the Jewish Day of Atonement.
But isn't that your biggest holiday?
It's a holiday, but not in the sense of festivities. It's an observation. We spend it atoning the sins of the past year. It's a fast.
You people are fakakta.
Thank you, Stephen. We'll be right back after this.